Welcome to Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180 for the absolute best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock. And on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday. And for the best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And now on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Your host is Clay Koerner, and I'm Marty Pay, and behind the big board is the man, our producer, Greg Held. Hey, Clay, that was a great show last week with Majority Whip of the U.S. House of Representatives, Congressman Kevin McCarthy.
Is that who we had?
Well, again, you were asleep through
half
part of
show,
it, but,
yeah.
Half the show. But, you got a few good questions in there with Kevin. He fielded the questions pretty well.
I think he gave us a lot of rhetoric.
Really?
No, I'm kidding.
No. Hey, Kevin's a good guy. I like Kevin. We also had a great talk with our old friend Heather Harrow from the Jeremy Stout Foundation. It's amazing what they're doing. It's a great ministry for people, for veterans here in Kern County. And
Awesome.
throughout the country.
Awesome ministry.
So today we've got a fantastic show. In the second half, we have Ralph Reed from the Faith and Freedom Coalition. But by phone now, we have the head of the California Republican Party, Tom Del Beccaro. Tom, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Good to talk to you again. How are you today?
Not bad. So what's going on with the Republican Party?
Well, we're about to have our big convention in March up in Sacramento.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to elect a new chairman. I'm moving on to a different project. And we're going to elect a new chairman, likely to be Jim Brulte from not too far from you guys down in... I think he lives in Rancho Cucamonga in Riverside, San Bernardino area.
I did hear that. In fact, I'll meet you up there finally up there at the convention.
Your luck's running out?
No, I'm going to be there. No,
I meant you're meeting me in person. Your luck's running out.
Things are going that well, huh?
I'm much better looking on the phone.
I hear that. That's why I'm the voice of the radio show and Clay's the face of the radio show.
Yeah. There you go. So we do this every 2 years. So we're going to have a new chairman, and then we'll see where we go from there. Obviously, the party's got a lot to do. We had a tough election last November, in large part because the public employee union spent over $100 million defeating our candidates. It's just impossible to, quite frankly, compete with those kind of dollars in this state. So we're going to have to change the way we raise money and do a lot more of it.
Well, you need to follow the Obama way.
Yeah, what's that? Take credit cards from foreign countries and not report them?
If it works.
Good, Clay.
If it works.
You know what? The Republican Party needs to step up and start doing things the way the Democratic Party does it, and maybe they'll get people elected.
Wow. So much for
well, I will agree with
values.
you on one fine point there. The Democrats are a 365, 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day operation. And they view this as their livelihood. Republicans believe in limited government and therefore limited campaigning and don't see it as their livelihood. And so the Democrats, through unions and their own efforts, are constant in their efforts to bring people into the party. Republicans don't look at it that way. Also, the Democrats look at government programs less as economic programs and more as political. So, whereas there are 87 welfare programs, at least, and many of them are redundant. And an accountant would sit down with them and say, well, you're wasting a lot of money here. Why don't we consolidate some of these things, and you would save people a lot of money? That makes economic sense because it's economic redundant to do that. But for the Democrats, it's not politically redundant. The fact that we have a record number of people on disability means that they are engaged in government and therefore will vote to continue those kind of payments. So the Republicans do need to wake up and realize a couple of things. The Democrat leadership is not really interested in saving people money or cleaning up government because it benefits them politically, and they're engaged in politics 365 days out of the year, and Republicans aren't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I rest my case, I guess, don't I?
Well, okay. I totally agree with you. That's an interesting perspective, but I agree with you on the Democrats looking at this as a full-time gig versus us as a part-time thing. But, aren't there some other things that we need to do, like...
Well, absolutely. What Republicans need to create a identity. They have lost that identity. If you ask Americans today, what are Republicans doing, and they don't have an immediate answer, then that's the problem. And right now, we have the House, which, quite frankly, between the House and the Senate, I'd much rather have the House. So what is the House doing? It's the House that has to go out and create this identity that they're saving Americans money and trying to clean up government, and that Obama and Harry Reid are blocking it. I wrote an article in Forbes, I think last week or last month, I'm not sure, where I basically said that they needed to seize the agenda by once a month, taking a government program that's wasting money. It's a redundant thought. But take a program, offer a reform, tell people how much in savings that would garner, pass it, send it to Harry Reid, have Harry Reid reject it or accept it, and send it on to the president. And then when the Republicans pass it, they should have this big press conference out on the Capitol steps, and then they should go around the country like Obama does and campaign on it. By doing that, they will be telling people, look, we're interested in saving you money. Harry Reid's blocking it. The president is blocking it. If somehow they accept some of the savings, then the Republicans say, we led. If the Democrats reject it, then they can say, you know what, the Democrats aren't interested in saving you money. And if they did that over the next 18 months, then they would have this identity as we're fighting to save you money.
Makes sense. I like that idea. Our guest by phone, Tom Del Beccaro, head of the California Republican Party.
The number one problem with that, though, Tom, is that the Republicans now, or anybody in the House, has to get out and start campaigning in the next few months because there's an election coming up.
Well, it's the best thing they can possibly campaign on. That appeals, obviously, to Republicans. It would appeal to independents because the vast majority of independents want government spending to slow down. It would appeal to all the Ron Paul people who know that government's out of control. You can't have $16 trillion in debt heading towards 20. That's insanity. And so it would be a great thing to campaign on. But they've got to do it publicly. They can't do it the way they've been, which is whenever they do something, and they do some good things there, but they do it in Washington, and they don't get out of Washington because they, I don't know, maybe they don't like to, but the reality is the American people aren't going to hear what they're doing if they stay in Washington, because the Washington Post isn't their friend, and neither is ABC News or any of the rest of them. So they have to go out and go on stations like this and throughout the country and let people know what they're doing so that people say, hey, that's a good idea, and it's the Republicans' idea.
Well, we've got a pretty strong whip from Bakersfield, Kevin McCarthy, who does get around quite a bit, and he's on radio shows in this area continually. But one or two people can't do it, and as you pointed out, we need them all to get out there and start campaigning.
Absolutely. Barack Obama has the bully pulpit. That phrase, if I'm not mistaken, came from the age of Teddy Roosevelt, and Teddy Roosevelt visited the country, or visited all over the country, and ran his office by speaking directly to voters and rallying them. Well, that's what, just because Obama has that doesn't mean he's the only one to have that. They will follow, the press will follow you if you create news events around the country, and that's what Republicans need to do. They need to wake up and realize that we're in a battle of ideas. You know, Maggie Thatcher used to say you got to win the argument, then you can win the votes. But you cannot win the argument if you're not actually in the argument. Obama's the only one in the argument by and large across the country. Republicans aren't taking their case to the people, and they have to dramatically change that if they expect to survive.
You know, winning the argument and then the vote, is that a little bit like passing the bill and then reading it?
Well,
when we come
little did we know how serious this woman was when she said that.
Yeah, it's insane. Tom, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the minority community in the Republican Party and where we're dropping the ball there. And
absolutely. That's one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, we are dropping it big time. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.